Good morning and welcome to this decision session for the Executive Member for Economy and Culture on Tuesday, 25th of March 2025. I am Councillor Pete Kilbane. I am the Executive Member for Economy and Culture. We've got no apologies for absence today, and I have no pecuniary interests to declare as a chair in terms of the business in front of us, except perhaps to say that as we are talking about the future of the city walls, and I regularly use them to commute into West offices, and what a fine walking route that is, then I definitely have an interest in that we maintain them. But given that what we're talking about today is donations from interested members of the public, then I don't think there's any sort of pecuniary interest in it for myself. I have read and approved the minutes from the meeting of the 27th of January 2025, which then leads us on to public participation. Do we have any members of the public wishing to participate in the meeting today? None at all, which is quite a surprise given the amount of members of the public who appeared to be outraged at the suggestion that we might tentatively ask tourists if they would mind donating a few bob for the upkeep of the city walls that they so much enjoy on their trips. I'm surprised there's nobody here to make those points, but they're not. So in that case, we will move on. So, which brings us to the main and only item on today's agenda, which is to decide whether or not to create infrastructure to be able to support the collection of donations to support the conservation of the city walls. And I will hand over to the Director of Transport, Environment and Planning, which is James Gilchrist. So, James.
Thanks, Chair. I'm actually going to hand pretty much straight away to Liam, because I think you've done a perfect summary of what the report is about. It's about that proposal to collect donations. It's not a charge, it's donations. And I think that's the important point to make. So over to Liam.
Thank you, James. The paper seeks the approval to install donation points within the city walls on a trial period of 6 months. The location that we've identified for the trial is Bootham Bar. Because the space is covered, it already has electrical infrastructure to install the points, and gives us the opportunity to put in some interpretive material to help visitors understand how the city walls have been cared for in the past, and the role that CYC has in caring for them now and in the future. We're looking to install 2 donation points on either gate entrance, where people can tap to donate for the city walls. We'll also look to create a web page where we can accept donations, and that'll be of a varying amount because the tap points are likely to be set single figures just because of the technology that we have available to us. Generally speaking, the city walls are in a good condition, and the funding that we have from CYC covers the day-to-day maintenance really well. So we'll be looking to use any funding raised to enhance experience of the city walls, look at maximising the educational value with additional interpretive material, looking at better ways that we can access them. We appreciate that by their nature they're quite an inaccessible monument, but there are locations, especially around the library at St Leonard's Hospital, where we could give a better visitor experience, especially for people with mobility issues who would struggle to access other areas of the city wall. So that would be a key area to look to spend any money that's raised. As you said, these are a donation targeted primarily at tourists on the city walls who get to experience them for free at the minute. So we think that it's something that a tourist would happily donate towards. The project has been trialled before, but that was maybe 10 years ago. The technology has moved on since then. I think the expectations of tourists have moved on since then, and people are more used to paying contactless for things. Additionally, that trial wasn't particularly well communicated to the public. The trial points that were set up were done so independent of any explanation or interpretive material, which is why we're really keen to enhance the donation points with interpretive material as well.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much, Liam, and thank you for the paper and for all the work that you've done to bring this proposal to this point. It's a great bit of work, and I know that you have been consulting with a wide variety of stakeholders and also the Diocese of York, who already operate this kind of system in, I noticed them in their parish churches when I go into them, and of course there is one by the stonemasons yard next to the Minster. So as you say, the technology's moved on and we're seeing these things in far more places. I think it is worth thinking about or mentioning why we're thinking about this trial. And I think it's because the city walls are not only the glory of York, they are one of the glories of England. They've been here since the city was founded. So when the Romans founded the city in 71 AD, they built walls around it, and some of the remains of those walls are still with us, like at the Anglian Tower in Museum Gardens at the back of the library there. So in many ways, the walls of York are in fact older than England. They were remodeled extensively by the Danes when they invaded and took over, or the Vikings, I suppose, as people prefer to call them. In 867, they were again rebuilt by the authorities in the Middle Ages, and of course were heavily restored by the Victorians, which interestingly included building a new bar, Victoria Bar, in 1839, which was built under the auspices of the city commissioners and public subscription. So entirely paid for by donations. So while we might think we are doing something new, in fact, what we are looking at trialling here today was done quite successfully by the Victorians nearly 200 years ago, and Victoria Bar is still standing proud to this day. So it falls upon us as a city council to be the current custodians of the wall and the city walls, and what a great honour that is. I think it is worth stressing the point that as well as looking for donations for the upkeep of the walls, and I'll talk about that in a minute, we are looking at better interpretive measures so that people get a better understanding of the history of the walls and also the amount of maintenance that it takes, etc. I'm very keen that if this trial is successful, we do explore that issue of accessibility. Absolutely near where the library is would be a good point for interpretation, but I think, you know, it's not beyond our ability to have at least sections of the wall that are fully accessible. I know that we've looked at that in the past around Bale Hill, but that project ran into the ground due to lack of funding. But you know, if we're successful with this, if we're more successful than we're kind of aiming for, then perhaps there will be potential for that. But there is of course a financial context, and the financial context is that as a council, if you just look at inflation since 2010, we're around about £30 million per annum short of where we need to be to provide the basic services that the people, the residents of York, quite rightly expect. If you added cost pressures into that, such as looking after our elderly residents, then that shortfall could be anywhere between 40 and 50 million pounds per year. So we are acting under severe financial restraints. And I know I first talked to you, Liam, about this idea a couple of years ago, but of course your own department is fully stretched, so it takes, and this wasn't top of the list, so it takes time for these things to come through, which I know can be frustrating for residents, but we are doing a lot with the limited resources that we've got. So in terms of the walls themselves, they cost anywhere between 500 and 600,000 pounds per year to maintain and improve, depending upon what the work is that we're doing. So that's basic maintenance. So that could be the pointing, replacing stones, replacing pavement slabs. But as custodians, we have an ancient monuments team. And within that team, there are specialist stonemasons. And we are one of the few councils in the country that retains its specialist stonemasons. And of course, that all adds up. However, you know, the cost of between £500,000 and £600,000 per year does provide an experience for 2.5 million visitors per year. So if you look at it in that respect, it costs the City Council between 20 and 24 pence per visitor for them to have that really great experience. So I think, you know, it's absolutely, we are committed to maintaining the walls. What we need to do is look at if we can find other ways to fund that, because I think you know, the nominal cost of 24p to walk around the city walls, I think most people would think, hang on a minute, we can do better than that. So just on a very sort of rough calculation of the 2.5 million visitors, if just 5% of them were generous enough to donate £5 as they go around their walk, then that would raise around £625,000 per annum, which would cover the costs of maintaining and improving the walls and the experience, and add a little in extra that we can then look at improving that experience, particularly around those kind of accessibility issues. And I think it was interesting that when the BBC did a vox pop on this and asked visitors to the city whether or not they will be willing to pay anything for the walk around, all of them said they were happy to pay. Many said that they were surprised that there wasn't a donation point already, and they were all saying around about the £5 donation mark would be perfectly acceptable for them. So we have visitors who are willing to donate, we have a need to maintain and improve the walls, and we have severe constraints on local authority budgets. All in all, I think makes it a bit of a no-brainer that we should give this trial a go. We will start in the most logical place and we will learn the lessons from that. But hopefully it will be a success and we'll be able to roll it out to other appropriate points through the walls. Have to stress, it is a donation point for people if they feel like giving some money to acknowledge the great experience that they've had walking our wonderful walls, then that would be great. I'm pretty confident that people will be willing to do that, and hopefully we can then start raising some funds for this particular budget. Okay, so I think that's probably enough for me. It just takes me to the recommendation. The recommendation is at paragraph 6 in the report, and it is to approve option 1, which is the creation of donation points, tap and QR codes for the in-person event. So we would be encouraging everybody that's taking guided tours of the walls, etc., to bring the visitors' attention to those QR codes and tap points, and also to approve the creation of the interpretation space within Booth and Bar, which I think is a great place for it. And I'm very happy to delegate the authorities for that to James in his role as director. Obviously, there will be some processing fees that will apply for the company that we work with in order to provide this service. I'm very happy to do this on a 6-month trial process and see where we are after those 6 months. So it is an honour to be able to play our part as a city authority in looking after the great walls of our great city and trying to get them into a place where we hand them on down to future generations, so that in 2,000 years' time, whoever the version of me is, who's sat here trying to make a decision as to what to do with these 4,000-year-old city walls, they will be in a fine fettle and enjoyed by people into the future. So very happy to approve those recommendations. So thank you, and thank you for all the work that you've done so far. Okay. That leads us to item number 6, which is urgent business. Has any urgent business been notified? We have no urgent business notified, which will bring this meeting to an end. Thank you all very much.